Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming, with a bright-eyed and bushy tail to meet with me today and talk with me today. Could you first introduce yourself and I want to know what you ate this morning. What type of breakfast did you have?
So I am Gary Gee. I am a local artist born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. At the moment, I haven't ate anything yet this morning. I take that back. I think some potato chips that I shouldn't have ate, so that's a bad breakfast habit. But that's all that was around me when I was leaving my studio. Yeah.
Since you're from Indy, I kind of want to know, what do you think is, the biggest misconception of, the Nap?
That is just corn and farmlands.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
I do. Can you kind of describe your style and medium?
My style is kind of a riff. It's my own take, I think. I was influenced by a lot of stuff from cartoons, comic books, movies, and album covers. Most of my work that people primarily know me for in butter is my ceramic work, which would still be mixed media work, but I do murals, works on paper, painting, whole lot of stuff since childhood. But the ceramic skulls and sculptures are what I'm basically known for at Butter and a lot of other galleries around the nation now.
To kind of talk about butter a little bit, you're one of, 8 artists to be in the pop-up that was in LA recently.
Yes.
How was that?
So it was, for one, a dream because LA is one of the spots that was on my list, where I wanted to show work. But I hadn't had the opportunity to show work there. Most of the time when I've done out-of-state shows, well, no, I take that back now. In the beginning, they were just pop-ups, one-day shows. Now, I had the opportunity to do some work in Atlanta and Chicago and some shows. But the LA experience was really unique because it was Butter in LA and it was a pop-up. All of the artists that were in there, even the LA artists, have been in Butter before here. So it was really cool to be kind of a pilot or ideal just to see what it could be like or work like. So for one, it was an honor to be out there to show my work. I felt like there would be a good market for me and my work sold in LA. So it was truly a great experience.
We kind of think of LA as this, capital of culture. Was it kind of overwhelming to show your art there in such a massive market and all these, different artists and things like that?
Nah, I can't say that it was overwhelming. It was truly exciting, unexpected when I got the call and the whole nine. But it wasn't really overwhelming. It just still felt like being in your element, just on a different stage or a different platform with different collectors or people that were engaged with your work. There's a lot of serious collectors out there in LA, especially that look like me too. So that part was pretty cool. But just the experience overall, and some things don't really sink in to you when you're in the moment, more or less. It's just some of it's still waking up did I really just do that?
Can you define the Midwest artists? Because going to LA and seeing the black artists there in that show in particular, is there a difference in style, or is there a true difference between a Midwest artist versus a West Coast artist or something like that?
I would really say I'm not sure if it's totally in the artist because artists are all unique. I was just watching something the other day by William Degrassi, and it's no one will produce the same art ever, 100 years from now, today, tomorrow. All artists are unique in their own right. But the market is totally different. So there's a totally different market, which means, and I just had a weekend pop-up, so I can't get into how the whole market moves in LA, but it's a bigger market than here. There's probably a whole lot more opportunities, for artists in a market like LA. And that's, all kind of artists, and actually met people from here that have transitioned out there, whether they work in music or design or behind the scenes, somewhere like that. And I know people have left, it's a bigger market, so it's more jobs or opportunities for all of us in creative fields in a market like LA or New York. So that's what's different, you know what I mean? But to be able to be that your work can still fit in or be on the level of artists in different areas, just makes you know that you've been putting in the work, and you just got to keep putting in the work. And it's a good feeling just to feel I fit in here.
Did you ever think about leaving Indianapolis one day?
I've thought about leaving Indianapolis a lot of days, but like I tell people all the time, it's like you should do this, you should do that. It's like you can't just get up one morning and say, "Hey, I'm gonna go make it wherever I'm at." You need to have an end or figure something out. I think as a creative, like some people might be able to just say, "I just went and left." I need to find something to get me into that. And then, I mean, I've lived outside of Indianapolis before, but for some reason, whether it's home or it's family, I always find my way back here. Like you see, the market is well changing or developing in a sense here. So it's kind of like, do you keep staying and see this go all the way through, or do you be here and you start looking for opportunities that can help you while you're in here going through the transition? So I think that's the biggest thing is like you have to look for opportunities outside of here truly as a creative for me to feel like to sustain and survive. So it was a blessing being with like Gang Gang or Butter, like somebody who moves and is moving with intention to try to expand markets or broaden ideals. So that part is like, yeah, it's a good feeling.
Can you kind of take me back to like the first time you determined like artist for you, or like you were an artist? Like, was there a certain thing you did as a child, like the first painting or something like that? Like, can you kind of take me back to that time period?
At times, I just think it's kind of like encoded in my DNA. Like I was always an artist, or like as long as I can remember drawing on paper sacks or envelopes in the house. Becoming a professional artist, that wasn't like realistic at the time, because even though I was taking art classes or would go to art schools, even when I was younger, people was like, "You're gonna have to get a real job. You have to get a real job." And then going back to school, like in my 30s for graphic design, I was at Ivy Tech for about 3.5 years for a 2-year degree in design. I mean, I was going part-time and full-time, had kids, but it was like I was learning this, but it really wasn't my calling. But then they had this art camp when you go down and you could work in different departments during like right after the midterms. So I went down there, and for a week I just took fine art classes. And then everybody's like, "Where'd you come from?" And by the end of the week, I'm talking to the department head, Stephanie Lewis Robinson, and she's like, "Where'd you come from? What are you doing?" And I said, "Visual communication, like Viscom." And she's like, "What are you doing up here?" And I was like, "I don't, I like they said this would be good, like I'm in art like for a job." But for me, I really didn't even know stuff about computers. When I went like Mac and PC were like Nike and Adidas. I just thought they were name brands. But by the end of the conversation, she was like, "You could be a starving designer if that's not what you're supposed to be doing." So, we looked at my transcripts. I met her that following Monday. She looked at my transcripts and was like, "Baby, you came too far for me to let you just turn around and quit. But if I stayed in the graphic design program, she would let me get in the fine arts program." So I came down, did that. I think actually doing the hybrid classes, I was kind of like the first hybrid student. It actually helped me complete the design class quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fine art was just, like I said, already in me, like encoded in my DNA. So it's just like naturally things just started coming back or just clicking. And I felt like more myself, or just taking these different courses. And then I ended up with 2 degrees, and it's like, well, what's next? I don't know. And I had started showing work already when I was like at the school. So I was like, I was going out to First Fridays and looking and figuring out how you get in different shows or different venues. And so I was already practicing what I was doing while I was in school. So it's like, why wait? I was already in my 30s, like, let me get started now. So just kept working towards that, and then ended up with more opportunities as I transferred to Heron School of Art. And then it was like, well, now it's like, I've been doing this, I got degrees, it's like, let's try to exercise it. But I'm still in Indiana, so, you get opportunities, but they're not opportunities that you are necessarily always sustaining in, but doing pretty good. So I had other things keeping me afloat. But I think when 2020 hit and the pandemic and George Floyd and Black Lives Matter movements, got the opportunity to do the murals, and the first mural that I got to do, I mean, I had done some other murals on my own or did one in the neighborhood prior to that. No, it was after that. So let me go back. So doing that mural was kind of like a calling card, and I got to do mine on the front of the Symphony Center. So Hilbert Theaters, so it was on the Washington Street side.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 11 panels. So for me, it was almost like a diary, just putting that stuff out. 3 of the panels in the center ended up going to the State Museum after it was all said and done. And then the Black Lives Matter mural on Indiana Avenue. So already showing work and then having those opportunities. And then the 18 was formed. And I was already in another collective, We Are Indy Arts, which will be celebrating its 10th year this year.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was like under Tony Radford. So like when you said you was at the show, so it was like he gave me my first curatorial shot with Hip Hop Anthology in 2020. So it was like at the same time all this stuff is happening, I became an adjunct professor at Ivy Tech at 2020. But then I also started working at Arts for Learning as a teaching artist in 2020. So it was like in 2020, I had like 5 jobs. You know what I'm saying? When a lot of people was just chilling, I was working, you know what I mean? So it was like, it just started clicking in the chaos. And then from there, it was like, all right, I can do this full time, you know, for the most part. But full-time artistry doesn't necessarily mean I just get to hang out in the studio and paint and, you know. So it's kind of like sometimes the starving artist adage hits because you're like, I done spent my money on supplies, or I'm waiting to the next gig, or I'm doing whatever. But by being the teaching artist and the adjunct professor at the time, that gave me some money to stay afloat. And then it kind of got to a crossroad where I just decided I didn't want to do both of those at a time. So everybody thought the adjunct professor role would be real prestigious, but it was cool. But at points it was too confining or restrictive to me, where when I worked with the kids, I could just have fun and be myself and develop this program. And after that, just everything just kind of started riding in these waves. And then, like I said, so each season of Butter picked up, and it was like I just kind of started learning my own craft a little bit more. And then anytime I made money, I would either reinvest in supplies or the products I needed, or clay or glazes, or I'd travel somewhere. And a lot of the travel weren't just to hang out, it was to check out some of these cities where the art was at and figure out how could I expand beyond just sitting here or waiting for one time of the year, or just waiting for the phone to ring here, or, hey, I want to buy that piece. And then, you know, you got one number on it, and then somebody thinks because you just been sitting on it, like they can give you a whole lot less. And it was like, nah, I'm cool, I'll hold on to it. And that's when I just said I'll start taking chances on seeing how I can do in other markets. And, you know, I haven't made it big, but I feel like I've made some big moves for myself. And like I said, so now circling back to be able to be like, hey, let's go together, or here's an opportunity, would you like to go? And it's like, most definitely, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Who made that call for the LA pop-up thing?
That was Alan and Molly kind of called me and said they wanted to talk to me, and they came over to my studio, and we just had a conversation about what was going on and the possibilities of what they had, and we talked about some of my artwork, and I gave them some pieces, and it was like, you know, don't say anything till it's announced, but I really didn't even have any information until they was like, hey, your pieces are gone, and do you want to go to LA?
So when was
like,
when was this meeting? What
this was
year,
all
what
within
month?
all of this just happened within the last month or so.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know how long it was simmering on their end, or what was going on, but this was within the last 30 days. All this happened like pretty quickly, you know. And there was a lot of other curators and stuff involved too, but like here on the ground, you know, I got the call from Alan and Molly that they wanted to talk to me, and you know, like I said, from this conversation, it just went there, and Butter was spreading, and that was just a test or a taste, you know, just like expanding conversations in the new markets.
Well, you've been a part of Butter since the beginning. What has that experience been like, and what keeps you, you know, entering your work, being a part of this?
For one, I guess it's just been a unique experience, you know, because like I said, even in the beginning, Butter was like an experiment, and you said like artists are gonna get to keep 100%. It's like, whoo, we putting in all the work a lot of times, but to hear you gonna get 100% is like, man, is this a realistic model? Can it sustain? And it's like, now it's 5 years and 6, 7 iterations and everything else that they've done in between. You know what I'm saying? As a creative firm, you know, but for artists, like just to be there from the foundation and to be able to come back, like for me, I started looking at it like, you know, this is a way to gauge and develop like my craft or my showmanship, and it's like a stage, and to be at home to do this was a real unique experience, you know, because like it costs several thousands of dollars to go to an art fair as a solo artist, or even if you had a small gallery. Yeah, the booths alone,
What?
depending on what fair you're looking at, could cost you $3,000 to $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. You still have to create the work, produce the work, transfer the work to these places. You have to stay at these places when you're there, and you have to be at your booth and still interact with the public. So yeah, it costs a lot of money to be an artist. So sometimes I guess that's when people look at it like, why does art cost so much? And it's just levels. Like, you know, in the beginning it might be about supplies and materials. As time goes on, it might be about the demand, or it might be like where you're at in the stages. But so back to the process with Butter is like I said, you can't just leap and jump into anything. But if you look at it and you've been putting in the work, you know what I'm saying, then you start gauging yourself. Like, so for me, I was looking like, okay, what did sell, what didn't sell? What price ranges are people paying? I have a medium that's kind of unorthodox with a style that's unorthodox. So it's like, as an original, sometimes it takes longer to push it, but as it grows, or the cult following grows, or the collector base grows, and then it's like, okay, so I'm my own competition. I'm challenging myself each year. Butter's giving me a challenge. Sometimes, you know, I've had challenges of my own, and then they might say, hey, Gary, what about this? Or did you think about this? Or one of the curators. And so this year is one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm kind of challenging myself, and I got a challenge from several of the curators on the team. So it's like it's a process, and being part of the process and learning or navigating your own process, I think that's the beauty of it, because it's a learning experience. You know what I mean? No matter where you go or show or work, but to be able to be a part of that, like from the catalyst and still be here, I mean, I'm like honored and kind of proud of myself for still putting in the work.
So I'm looking at your sweatshirt and I'm seeing some of your work on there. What inspires your art, and who are some famous artists or artists that that you look up to?
It's a lot of things that inspire my work and I guess artists, but like overall as a kid, it's always been art, like just in general. So, you know, in the beginning, everybody who had the textbook answers, like the Picassos and the Van Goghs. Mm-hmm. But as world went on, I know I was influenced, like I said, comic books that my older cousins would give me, especially my big cousin Kevin. He would draw.
Which comic books?
A lot of the Marvels.
Okay.
X-Men, Silver Surfers, Ghost Riders, all that stuff before they was popular. Like Marvel was the dark comics. Like DC was still cool. I love Super Friends as far as the cartoons. They had that on lock. But the comic books is Marvel. But then like album covers, especially like the Parliament Funkadelic covers, they always got me. You know, cartoons, just the world around, like fashion, film, like a lot of stuff has kind of like influenced me, like street cultures. But then hip hop, by the time I got in junior high, it was this. It had been around already, but junior high was like the golden era for me. So this is like the early mid '80s, like, so it's like it's booming. So like all the superstars now, like LL, Roxanne, Shantae, they were like teenagers, like just a little older than me. So it's like all my art started being influenced and inspired by that, like my clothes, everything, you know, just from the little videos early on, or the neighborhood and magazines. So it's like, so I'm inspired by these worlds, and then your imagination as a kid and an artist just goes into whole new realms. And then like, you know, G.I. Joe was some of my favorite comic books. So it was a lot of that stuff. So I think that's what led me to the military later.
Okay.
And then family members going, and I had a big family.
Okay.
Like my grandparents, so my mother's has it was 11 of them, so she has 10 sisters and brothers.
Wow.
So pretty much everybody had kids, so I had cousins in different ranges, older, younger, whatever. So, you know, you get inspired and influenced by them first, and then just, like I said, the neighborhood and just pop culture. I mean, really, TV and all that stuff, period. The colors in Miami Vice, A-Team, just all the old TV shows in the 80s. Good Times, though, was like one of my biggest. So, like, when I say artist at first, thinking of an artist that I thought about was J.J. Evans from Good Times, right? But when I went to college, that's when I found out, which I probably knew TV-wise. He didn't paint them, but I never thought about who did. And one of our professors that's a friend now, Hector Del Campo, was like, good answer, because everybody was giving them textbook answers. He said, well, who really painted them? I said, I don't know. And I'm thinking as a teacher, he's going to tell me, he said, no, you got to do research. By the next class, you better tell me who painted them paintings. So I was like, there was Ernie Barnes. So, and, you know, so I started learning the history of Ernie Barnes. You know, and all the stuff that he did, like Marvin Gaye's album cover, just Curtis Mayfield's. It was like just a lot of stuff. The '84 Olympics, he was the only painter. Like it was like, so I was like, dude, this dude inspired me my whole life, and I didn't really know it. Then by the time I got to college at Heron, I took a lot of art history classes, and that's when I kind of figured out I'm kind of more like an art nerd in some sense. And so I'm looking at textbooks, but then, like I said, my trips and my travels started migrating. Instead of going to clubs and strip bars, I'm going to museums and galleries when I go places. Like I'm like changing this is what I'm gonna spend my time and my money on at this stage in life. And so I'm looking at the works that I'm reading about in the textbooks, but then I'm seeing more of their works. So like Basquiat and Keith Haring, I knew who their work was when I was a kid, but I really didn't know who they was because I really wasn't. They weren't teaching us about art. And in New York at the time, they were cutting their art program. So I don't know if they would have made it that far anywhere. Like Fab Five Freddy was a dude popping up in the rap videos. I'm like, I'm seeing him. He was an artist, like the visuals, the visionaries, everything. But I knew him from Yo TV Raps, and it went back like, dang, he was in the Blondie video. And you know, I just started tracing even the history of the things that I like. So like Stan Lee, before we see him in the Marvels, you start tracing him and it's Jack Kirby. So like just research, and I'm kind of looking at it like, we do the research one way in school, so it's like I do the same kind of research for me now, just like going through them rabbit holes. And it used to be harder when I was a kid. You had to go through card catalogs and all that. Now you got the internet, so it's like, okay, I can find this, I can reference that. Okay, is there a book, you know? So just, I don't know. So I was influenced by a lot of that stuff. On the ceramics, I really didn't know a lot, but there was one guy, ceramic-wise, Robert Arneson, and they would call him Smargy Bob. And I got to see some of his work at UC Davis. Professor, I think he was in this like California funk yard movement. But as far as ceramics, he was the dude that kind of like tapped in my head, I think, starting to see different realms, because I kind of feel like at times ceramics chose me more than I chose ceramics. I got a good professor, Corey Jefferson, Andrew Perry Davis, Laura, when I was all at Heron, so I was learning, Laura Baker, so I was learning from these, is it Laura, Leslie? Laura, I think it's Laura, but I was learning from them, and they were like practicing their work outside of just being professors. So I think just different things like that, and seeing people that were still teaching and working and, you know, introducing you to other people. Robert Lanugo on ceramics too, because they was calling him like the ghetto potter out of Philly. And
Ghetto Potter?
The Ghetto Potter. He it's like making his own wheels.
Okay.
So ironically, when we did the We the Culture show at Newfields, and they still have one of his vases out front of the gallery where we were at. So it was kind of like, dang, I was hearing about this dude when I was at undergrad, and seeing his work was blowing up. And I had met a guy the first time I went to Art Basel in 2019. So I'm still kind of new with having a degree and all this stuff, so it's like I'm just really trying to learn the field that I'm in even more. But a guy at the Wexler Gallery, and I was walking past, and I said, hey, that's a Robert Lanugo pot. And he's like, yeah. And he was telling me the story of kind of like Basquiat or anybody else. In the beginning, the guy really couldn't give them away. You know, like people wasn't really gravitating to his work like that. And I think at the time, his vases might have been starting to sell for like $50,000 or
Wow.
upwards. You know what I mean? I heard similar things about like Basquiat or other people, and I showed that guy some of my work. So sometimes just talking to people, whether I was ready to go to that next level or not, they see something there. You like keep working, keep putting in the work. Like my buddy Kevin West always said, "Man, G, just keep working, just keep putting in the work. The opportunities will come." But I think just the uniqueness of that and time and just kept putting in work and like meeting people. So like Najee Dorsey, then I had a chance to work with Najee at Black Art in America later, but I met him at the first Butter officially, but I had been following him. And we was having a conversation, he said the same thing about my work. Like, nothing really out there like that. So it's like, in the beginning, I don't know if it's really what I was trying to focus on, but just the way that things came in life. And like I said, so with Butter, so now back to Butter, the testing ground had been, okay, well, this uniqueness and how do I develop it? And now I got to the point where I've got even my own language. It's kind of how I look at it, or my own context. It's like they're new artifacts, but I even spell the word different. So it's like NUARTCSAFACTS, So it's like giving my own terminology in my own terms. So it's kind of like the education meets hip hop, the streets meets the gallery. It's like, why do I have to fit in the box? Let me just blur the lines. And I think that was one of the contexts with Butter. It's always like, be yourself. You know what I'm saying? You can be yourself here. So for me, it's like, let my artwork be itself. It's me. It's the way I was drawing. It's like I said, so each challenge is for me to challenge myself on how can I be the best me that I can be artistically,
Since you talked a little bit about Black Lives Matter, the mural, like a little bit earlier, you talk about not fit into a box, being yourself. Can you kind of talk to me about your experience as a quote unquote Black artist? And I say that because like having to show up as yourself every day. Like you like hip hop, you like comics, but this is all in your work. How do you do that and be unapologetic about it without worrying about the pressure of what it needs to look like or what the textbook says it needs to be,
Yeah, I mean, I think I looked at it in the context of it's the elephant in the room, One thing I can't change is I'm an urban Black male. Gold teeth, tattoos, braids, all that. So it's like, I remember one guy that was an older Black guy, respecting him, but he was like, I'd have to change this, tone your work down, do this, do that, do this, do that. And then I had a chance to work with, so I had a manager at the time, and then I had a chance to work with a lady, white, lesbian. I just want you to be yourself. Let your work speak for itself. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this is when I started looking at like, people are people. Some people will judge you. It don't matter if it's your color, somebody else's color, context, community, class. As an artist, like you have to be vulnerable anyway. You know what I'm saying? And the more authentic you are, the more real your work will be. When you start lying to yourself or trying to lie to everybody else, you start lying to yourself. You either buy in or you're going to be miserable. Or you've seen it all before. Like these people go crazy, commit suicide, kill themselves, or just shut themselves out from the world, you know what I'm saying, because they're trying to be somebody that they're not. You know what I mean? So for me, contextually, the easiest thing to do is to be myself. I was taught to be yourself, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I embrace that, you know what I'm saying? So I embrace everybody, but it's like, I'm a Black artist, yeah, because I'm a Black man, but my art can be for whoever buys it. My art can blow out somebody else, in my opinion, like I'm not the best, but I know I'm not the worst, you know what I mean? I kind of create my own lanes or context. There were situations where being a Black artist, I think, I got a grade I didn't deserve, you know what I'm saying? Or I don't get opportunities that I should have gotten, you know what I'm saying? So when then people say like the DEI and all that stuff, so that works the same way. There's been plenty of times I've been shut out for being myself. So when the opportunity came and it was like, well, you're a Black artist, yeah, I am, but I'm an artist first and foremost. So my work can speak for itself in that. But contextually, like, is my work a reflection of me? Yeah, because we don't see enough of that. You know what I'm saying? And it also inspires me. So, like, now I get to work with kids of all hues, but especially little guys that look like me. When I was coming up, I didn't know, any black artists. I didn't really know who the Ramir Beardens, the Jacob Lawrences. You know, I didn't hear about them in classes. All they was teaching me was Picasso and Van Gogh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even in college textbooks, you still got to start to scratch deeper. You know, you get into the Harlem Renaissance. It's just like Black History Month. It's going to skim over it real quick. Or anybody else's holiday that's not contextually what, you know, this new regime wants to print out in textbooks. But it was like, even as a kid, I had to look beyond the books that you give me in school. But right across the street from my grandparents' house was a park and a library. We spent a lot of time, if we was outside, in the park or the library. So I would read beyond what the textbooks give me, you know, because that's kind of how you're supposed to do, like, do your own research. I think I was taught that early in life or early in stages. So I think at times I even researched myself, you know what I mean? Like, just in the mental Rolodex to go back, like, what drives me or where did I come from? Or, you know, so you don't get too far ahead of yourself and you still remember, you know, where you came from. Like, so it's a lot of people that have made sacrifices in their life to get me in the places that I've been, or probably deserve the opportunity that I got that wasn't there for them in life. You know, so I take all this stuff seriously. So like in junior high, I went to Heron Saturday school. Every semester I would win the scholarship. And so I'm winning this over all the kids in the school. But when I get to Heron, there's not a lot of kids that look like me at Saturday school. Then the first time I went to a summer camp, my mom actually let me leave home. I went to IU for a summer arts institute. I was the only me there. You know what I mean? So nobody really treated me bad, but everybody probably didn't treat me fair either. But I still had a good time. I remember that. It didn't register to me like being the first black kid to go there. Didn't even register to me till I was an adult. You know what I mean? Like, damn, that's kind of crazy because this is like I said, in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, but when I think of things like that, it's like, I mean, I'm in different spaces for whatever reason God, the universe intended me to be. So if they see a black man first, I'm going to rep that shit to the fullest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question, though, because you're talking about your parents, your grandparents, like, nurturing you, like cultivating, you know, your interest in art in whatever way that is through, you know, the library, the park, watching TV, doing the art camps. I think that's really interesting of a man of your era. Like, I know a lot of people were told, like, you got to work twice as good, you know, to get half of what they have. That type of like, I don't know, instilling that in your children. It seems like your family was different in that way. Is that true? In terms of even pursuing art, right?
Yes, but no.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody knew that I would grow up and be like an artist per se, but I think I was good as a kid. My mom brought me like a professional art kit when I was like in the 6th grade, like, cause I was drawing on everything but the walls. That one got me beat. Now she's cool with me drawing on walls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She used to hate some of the clothes I would wear because it's like she always wants to be super neat, and I run around at times like raggedy clothes with paint all on them, and I really don't care. People are like, is he a bum? Is he what? Is he? You know, I'm just comfortable like in work clothes now, like working. And it was like when we were kids, you had the school clothes and you had play clothes.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm constantly in my play clothes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's fun, but no, there was factors, especially like growing up in the 70s and the 80s, like, and then I grew up in a mixed neighborhood. Like, so I grew up
What side of town?
I grew up on Brookside. Yeah, I grew up in Brookside right by Spades Park. So Spades Park and the Spades Park Library, that was all my playground. So I saw racial tensions, racial divides as a kid, but I saw a lot of unity and community at the same time as a kid. So there were just different streets. You like, don't go down that street. You know what I mean? And it was just navigating like different areas, I think, growing up. But then a lot of times I kind of feel like I was sheltered or protected from a lot of things. But then at the same time, like junior high, I was like, you going to school on your own. And this is the era where people are screaming out, what size are them shoes? You know what I'm saying? Like, they trying to jack you for your stuff. So it's like, so you just navigating all that. So it's like, it's real world, but it's not as bad as it can be in other places. But then at the same time, it's a sense of pride. Like, if I go out there and somebody's jumping on me, I got to fight back, or I'm going to get in trouble for not fighting back when I come home. Like, I better come home with my stuff. So it's like, okay, you know, you got them kind of things. But I knew at the same time, like, you had to work harder to be ahead. But in school, honestly, sometimes people might say he's lazy or whatever. I was bored a lot of times in school, like just what they was teaching. But the art classes like piqued me, and like it was things I wanted to do. And I think my mother said something about if I get on honor roll. So it was like I would do work when I wanted to, and I think they started realizing that. And I think I was kind of always like that, like just it's nothing for me. I don't care as long as I'm not a dummy and I don't have to be the nerd in the class. I'm cool, you know. But then as time got later in life, it's like the things just clicked. Like, man, you know, use your brain. Like that is your strongest weapon. Your lethal weapon is your mind. Like even hearing that on an Ice-T song as a teenager, it's like, you know, because people can play dumb, but they can't play smart. So, you know what I'm saying? So you're only as smart as you make yourself, which means you got to keep on looking or studying or, like I said, researching or just learning life. So I think some of the things that you don't understand, parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or just family members are really giving you are kind of like little tools to arm yourself in a way. So, you know, like knowledge is power, like reading is fundamental, or I'll tell a kid it's fun for a demental, you know. So it's like you take these things in. You know, like I've had relatives and like currently like one of my aunts, like one of my oldest aunts, Betty, like one of the sharpest people I know, but like now has dementia. You know, I've had other family members with like dementia and Alzheimer's. So it's like I see the things like keeping your mind sharp, or why they were always focused on like puzzles or Sudoku and just different things like that. So it's a lot of the senses that, you know, like if we even fortunate enough to make it down the line in life, like they start to fade. But it's like I think the cognitive senses work better if we're using them. You know what I mean? So I think as long as you keep using that stuff and just, I don't know, I think just different people I've met in life. So, you know, I jump around, but like when I was incarcerated, it ended up being unlawful and it was reversed. But it's like I'm still doing this time in my life. So I can't take that back to people I've met or anything. A lot of my most powerful knowledge was regained in that cocoon. And I know at one time it was a man, we called him Paw Paw. He was the oldest man in there, and it's Mr. McCauley, and everybody was like, hey, how old are you, Paw Paw? And he's like, oh, I'm 72 years young. Like, old age is a state of mind. And old, if you say you old, you old. There's a lot of people in the world older than me, you know, so I'm not old. So I was like, dang. So I started thinking of that. And so for me, it was like, at times, like to get back to my art, or was reading, or was writing, or sitting there just, like I said, researching life, like the things that make you happy over the things that make you sad, even if it's a bad day. You know what I'm saying? Was it a good book? You know, because sometimes you don't have no music. You might not have something going on. What's the power went out? What you gonna do? You know, like right now, everybody's dependent on social media or the internet or something digital, you know, to make your life go past. So what happens when the power is out?
Yeah.
What do they do? You know, I just went back to the things that I knew, you know what I'm saying, in any situation. So, like, for me, drawing was always something I did. It can pass my time. It can relieve my stress. You know what I'm saying? It can take me to a whole different place. So it just be things like that. I think, like, yeah, just the study of yourself. Let's say that self-love. You just got to love yourself a little bit more. So, and just apply, like, yeah, the things that they taught you in life. That's where we was at, yes.
What are your thoughts on AI-generated art?
It is, like, scary, weird, and strange. You know what I'm saying? It's like some things we can't stop, like, looking at it and seeing. But the thing about it as an artist, like, people want to compare you to an AI, or people want to compare an artist that drew something by hand to somebody who might have used a projector or a tablet or something to get there. You know what I'm saying? It was like still art. They love it and they just happy. So on one end, it's like it could run people out of certain jobs. It could be a tool. I don't know, as far as like showing AI art in a gallery, I don't think that's like compared to human experience. It's like, nah, that needs to be a whole separate show or a separate thing. But it's like, you're not gonna stop it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's here now. So people are going to use it in design. People using it for videos. It's just how many people fall for the deep fakes. I just saw the president say this and Obama said that. And it was like, dude, look at that shadow around there. That's not neither one of them.
And it's getting really good, though, because, like, they used to say, like, check the fingers.
Check the fingers.
But, like, they're getting so good where, like, the fingers, it's 5 fingers, it's 5 toes.
And sometimes it's like the voices and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Now, like, as far as, like, tools and learning or research and stuff like that, I'm seeing like the capabilities or possibilities with it, but it's just like anything else in the world. It's like, will man make this the problem?
That's a good question.
Know what I'm saying? It's like, it's usually not any of the inventions or anything. You know, like guns were made. I mean, but then look at the things that they've done with guns and bombs, and you know, and they all sitting on them. But it's like, why you keep making this stuff?
Yeah.
So really, the demise of man, to me, in my eyes, is man. Like when you listen to the Planet of the Apes, like is it, whether it was the old ones or the new ones, it was like man's the biggest problem. You know what I mean? So with AI, and there was just a conference on that with the guy who invented AI. And the probability of AI going rogue, and if it did, it would be a person like feeding it this information, because it's basically based off what we give it. So, yeah. But as far as art, yeah, it's just like, nah, that's not art.
Feeling it.
It's not art. It's generated. Like you didn't make that. You just gave it a prompt. So you're not an artist. You just talked a good game, and the computer generated it for you.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm sure it'll be in a lot of advertisement that's already in and stuff like that, but it's not, no, it doesn't compare to the human touch.
So social media, you talked a little bit about that. You have a pretty big presence on Instagram specifically. How do you approach it? Is it like a casual thing? Is it like you do it for your career, like professionally? Do you feel a pressure to be on there to show your work? Like, what is social media? What does that look like in your life?
It's a tool. It's a tool, and there's times that I felt pressure to be like, be on social media, do this, do that, do this, do that. And I just kind of looked the other day, and it's like, I think my numbers are kind of balanced out with follows and almost the number of people that I'm even following. So it's like,
you're not a celebrity. You follow people back when they follow you.
Celebrity. Yeah, a lot of times, because a lot of the people, ironically, that I meet, I've kind of interacted with them in person, or I met them in a personal setting. So that's been kind of like the weirdness or the coolness. So like, some of the people that I met in different cities, I met doing pop-up shows. I mean, we started interacting, and then sometimes, you know, you'll follow different accounts, so like the celebrities or the bigger artists or people you like or companies too. So I just looked, and it's like those numbers kind of balance out. But playing the social media game, it's like it's hard to be a creative and post as much as they say you should post to be successful or spend that kind of money right now. So yeah, it's weird. What's up, Fitz?
How you doing, my
How you
phone?
doing? I'm Mesgana.
Mesgana?
Mesgana, yeah.
Mesgana? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So I'm just gonna ask you to kind of like say your name and what did I say? Your style and describe your style and medium.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Fitz, also known as Art by Fitz on my socials. My background and style and medium comes from cartoon and animation, being a fan of that my entire life. I usually basically all mediums I can get my hands on as far as like mixed media concerns, but acrylic is my go-to, and a little marker and for illustration work. So yeah, that's what Fitz does.
Okay. Well, I had asked Gary earlier his experience at the Butter pop-up in LA. Just kind of want to know what your experience was and how was that in general.
And it was an amazing experience. It was my first time having my artwork in Los Angeles. So it was a really dope experience. Not only that, milestone being crossed off my bucket list, but it was really just, it was everything that I expected it to as far as energy, meeting good people. The weather was amazing. Met some wonderful people with hopes to, keep building on the relationships and opportunities that we can both do for each other. So, yeah, it was a wonderful experience, and yeah, I can't wait to get back.
So I was asking Gary a little bit about, like, when did he start doing art, like his almost origin story. Can you kind of share that with me a little bit?
Yeah, I guess my origin story, that's funny, like my superhero origin. I guess it started with cartoons, like I said kind of earlier, but, a little bit of just having a cartoon inspire me and just being able to see how that did that for other people, my friends and stuff like that. that kind of thing, it just inspired me to go down the route art. So that's kind of like how I got into like creating my own characters, comic books, just kind of whatever I can medium wise to tell a story. Because I feel like in animation you can cover, adversity, you can cover, emotions. There's so many topics to hit. So that's kind of why I went down art route.
Are there some like famous artists that you look up to? Dead or alive?
Yeah, Ernie Barnes, rest in peace. Also, Basquiat, of course. I'm really inspired by people who have like a just distinct style. That's kind of like my gravitating thing when I look at art. Let me see. I really love Hero Brantley. That's probably one of my biggest inspirations for a live living artist. Cause, Takashi Murakami's, let me see, Chase Conley from, he's like the director of Marvel Comics, the animation side. So, yeah, I got a long list of where I get my inspiration from.
So, Butter 5 this year, but you've been a part of it every single year, right?
Yes, gratefully.
What has that experience been like, and what keeps you coming back and having your work in the show?
Keep me coming back if they let me come back. But it's been a great experience from learning from Butter 1 to Butter 5, seeing the growth of not only me, but, my friends, the people that, keep me on my toes every year that they, whether they're new faces or familiar faces. It just kind of helped me, like, really hone in on my concepts, my craft, like, kind of just take everything and every piece seriously and don't just stop at your first idea. Push it a little bit more, manipulate it a little bit more, innovate it some more. So it's kind of just helped me do that for all my art forms in and out of Butter. So it's kind of helped me just basically think bigger.
So I kind of wanted to ask you this question specifically. I asked Gary it earlier. What are your thoughts on AI generated art? Like, because the work you do with, cartoons and things like that, people think they can maybe easily mimic it using, a software or something. So, like, what are your thoughts on, like, AI art?
I am not a fan of AI art. I am also recognizing that it's a digital tool for the most part. I think the only thing that separates us from Procreate or, Photoshop is you still have to learn what you're doing with it. But I think that's what separates it that, like, just anybody can get into it, If you just spend a little bit of time with it, you feel like you can make a movie, and I think that's kind of a disservice to the art craft itself of whatever it's videography or photography or my job. So I think it's nasty, personally, but I'm also not a fan of how some artists may use it as a tool to maybe brainstorm with, maybe use it as a tool to execute. Like I said, brainstorm or maybe use it as a tool to maybe see reference points as far as like Google Images. If I want to see a kid swinging a baseball bat and I want to see that in a different angle than Google allows. If you like for stuff like that, I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, I don't think AI art should replace real craft.
Okay. So social media, kind of on the same tip. Do you feel a pressure to be on there and show your work? Like, is it casual for you? Is it something you need to do professionally to kind of market yourself? Like, how do you approach social media in your career?
I understand I need it. As far as I feel like it's you do what you start with. Like if you're an artist that like kind of kicked off in mysterious, was your alias or was your profile way of going about things? I think that works for you. But I think kind of if you starting off Instagram or starting really any brand for that matter, I think having a marketing tool such as social media is just useful. And if you're not going to use it, you're going to have to find mad other ways to market yourself. So it's either you're going to do it or somebody on social media is going to do it for you. So you're going to either be going to be on there and you not know it. But yeah, Instagram is always, or social media for the most part, as a tool I need to use just to amplify the message.
How do you show up as yourself every day, unapologetically, like in your art? Mm-hmm. What you choose to draw on, or make art about? How do you do that every day without, the pressure of what it should look like or what it shouldn't look like or what message you should be telling?
I kind of, it's hard. It's difficult to kind of answer that. I guess I always just know that. I kind of just said this recently. It's funny. I'm not bigger than the program, so the message is what the message is. Whether I gotta show up in my flyest way and you hear it and digest it that way, or if I gotta just show up in holes in the t-shirt or whatever, the message is the message. I'm personally just the messenger of just like a bunch of other people who are kind of telling similar stories in and out of art. So yeah, I feel like when I'm here, especially for Butter, I try to mostly use those to amplify the biggest message that's probably been on my mind in the latest several months or latest years, or what I just feel like I need to connect to people with. So yeah, that I really just want the art to talk more than me.
All right, so I want to ask both of you guys some questions. I don't know if they're speed round questions, but okay. So I was asking you guys about your inspirations and things like that, people you look up to, artists, whether it be in art or like not in music, comics and things like that. The late, great Nina Simone once said, like decades ago, that an artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times. There's like a growing debate of whether or not art is political, inherently political, right? Should we start saying certain stuff or whatever? With so much happening in our country and around the world, is that something you try to incorporate into your work at all? Do you feel pressure to do so? Kind of how do you approach that?
I know I'm political in my art. Like sometimes my stuff is not like hit you in your head political, but it might be in the title or just a narrative. The snarl in one of the smiles. I still draw my little illustrations. Like I would do Inktober at times. So like I said, got bored with some of the prompts for a minute. But I really do believe that. I mean, I was raised in them times. You know what I'm saying? Like coming from the '70s and the eras of the '60s still creeped over. So like the Panthers, Radical Change, funk music, like I said, hip hop, like all that. Like Public Enemy was one of my favorite groups as a kid, or like inspirational and influential in making me, like I said, learn about history that they wasn't teaching us. So it's kind of hard not to be political in like this time frame. So like sometimes even if it's not my art, it's my voice. So I know it might turn some people off, but I'm like, man, to me the truth is the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like if like the world's not fair, but it should be fair and it should balance it out. So as an artist or a person that like gets responsibility, I feel like, with that great reward is great responsibility. You know what I'm saying? The comic books tell us that. I heard it all before the end, you know what I'm saying? So it's like yeah, I'm from that era. Like my grandmother, like when I said my grandparents came from the era when black people couldn't vote, then women couldn't vote. You know what I'm saying? So I had to vote. Even if I'm just voting for the lesser two evils, I got to vote. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think by nature, sometimes my politics are anti-politics, but it's like, yeah, you got to stand somewhere or you're going to fall for anything. Malcolm X told us that, So, yeah, I'm political by nature.
That's a fact. I kind of been doing, I don't like to say I'm political. I'd like to say that who can tell better black stories than black people? So I kind of I come from that position. I'm the stories that I've been told, the stories that I've seen firsthand, the stories that I live through today and see how, like, I guess politics affects us as a whole. So I guess by default I have to speak about it because politics really ain't doing the most for black and brown people at this point in time. So yeah, like he said, by default, being black, you kind of gotta, if you see the problem, you kind of gotta vocalize it, or you're part of it. So
kind of like social constructs. You know what I'm saying? Are you socially conscious or unconscious? And I think as artists, like we gotta be conscious. You know what I'm saying? Or creatives, like, because we inspire and influence, so we can inform too. You know what I'm saying? So back to the if the power went out, somebody need a sign to know which way to go. I can give you the right sign or the wrong sign. You know what I mean?
Censorship, right, as artists. there may have been, there's like a trend we're seeing, like maybe an increase around the country of like artists being censored or censoring themselves. Like I wrote a story recently on Anthony Radford's experience in New Fields.
Oh yeah.
Do these types of instances make you more apprehensive? Do you think a little bit harder about a piece before you show it? Do you avoid certain events or institutions to like, you know, out of fear of your work being labeled controversial or being censored? How do you deal with that?
I've kind of learned on the come up, you gotta kind of balance your beliefs or whatever you know you strongly believe in, your political views, your personal views. You gotta kind of balance that with your voice and art or your business. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be an artist, you can yell till your face turn blue about all the problems in the world and maybe not make money on it, or you can be in the middle and like try to leave layers. I try to put my artwork in layers on layers so that on the surface level it maybe look like it's just, you know, color and cartoons, but you know, I try to make sure that the people that I'm talking to, they can see it and they can hear it. So yeah, I do worry about censorship because I also don't want to, whatever I know now, and if it's unlearned later or learned in a different, more mature way, I don't want that to affect me later. So I just balance it out.
Well, I realize censorship is biased a lot of times. So, for instance, social media, it was a period of time, and it's political by nature, that my comments are blocked, but worse comments are pushed like through the masses. You know, with art, there's censorship. Like sometimes it's already told to you up front, like, hey, no nudity, no drug use, no alcoholism, no, you know, they telling you don't use this so it's per venue. So you know whether or not your work like consciously or unconsciously fits in a venue. In the case of like Tony, you know, it's like you censored after the work is accepted. So, you know, that's a catch-22. But then again, it's like you in somebody else's house, so they don't play the games they want to play. For me, probably prior to that, sometimes it's just, I don't know. Something told me I wouldn't enter that show anyway. It's other grants or opportunities that come, like, you know, you might get it, and in some places, you know, you might not get it. And it might not necessarily be a racial thing or class thing, it's just who's ever on that panel or that board at the time. It could be something you said, like Fitz saying, if you walk in the balance, you might have said something that annoyed somebody somewhere else, whether you know it or not. So that might make them censor you or want to, like, it make them tone their work down some. Me, I'm gonna just be like, I'm gonna just do my work. You know what I'm saying? It's not offensive. I'm not attacking anybody per se, and you know, unless I'm just against the opposition. So I say that. But I ain't even went on no strong political like rants where I'm like even attacking the idiot in charge of Indiana right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So sometimes you gotta self-censor yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they're like working with kids or in certain places, you know, it's certain things that you can or you cannot do or you should not do ethically. You know what I'm saying? So I look at that. But as far as artwork itself, it should be there. So like when we saying censorship now, you look at all the books that like have been banned by the Trump administration on the Naval Academy, right? Most of the books that have been banned are about black people or even maybe gay people. But 2 copies of Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf are still sitting on the shelf. Like, why is that even sitting on the shelf? Period. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I said censorship sometimes belongs to, in this case, the victors or the dictators or the people who want to silence real life consequences and obstacles. So I think like in this period in time, it's like the people like us that like my voice is supposed to counter that. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to yell and scream at you, but I'm just common sense. We know it's not common, but don't mean I'm not going to exercise it.
Is there like a special routine or ritual in your creative process when you're about to start a new piece? Like certain music, specific meals, like, you know, how do you get going on something?
Due to censorship, I probably won't say exactly what I do. However, meditation. Definitely a nice little walk with the dog. But yeah, all jokes aside, really just relaxation, really getting some rest. My ideas do not work themselves out if I am overthinking or overwhelming myself with too much personal and business and like so. Yeah, my ritual is really to just calm down, link with my friends, especially if I'm jammed up mentally. But yeah, that's my little remedies.
Yeah.
For me, it's science with a lot of meditation. I burn incense, listen to different types of musics, and it depends on what piece I'm going after. So a lot of times people think, I just listen to hip hop all the time, but for me it's like foundational elements. So jazz is undertones of that, funk. I listen to some rock. It just depends on how I need to be. I might listen to Miles Davis. I might listen to Korn. I might listen to Public Enemy or Outkast. Then like you said, Nina Simone. I need some balance. I'm gonna find some old school R&B, something I grew up on. Might be Michael, might be Prince. Or if I'm bored and it's like them locks, I just start watching old TV shows or clips of cartoons or something that's in the realm of what I'm working on. It used to be like I just flip through the art history books and like contextually try to put myself back where I need to be, but it's like it really depends on what it is we're working on. Like the sketchbook is the biggest thing for me. Rather I write in there or I just do little crazy sketches with pen. And that's kind of how the ideas form. It's just like being present with the art, I think, and just sitting in the studio a lot too.
What is your favorite piece if you could choose out of the work you've done? Can you choose one favorite piece or?
Man, that's kind of hard. That's subjective. That's like trying to pick my favorite child. I'll say most recently the Milkman because it was the last sale in L.A. So it was my favorite one most recently. But a lot of my pieces are special to me. So like my first piece that I actually sold at Butter was my most traveled piece. So it started here at and that was The King is Black. But it started here at Art and Soul right when I got out of Heron. It was my first show with the Arts Council and like solo and Ernest and Shannon. I was thinking about doing all this different work, and they was like, nah, Gary, we was thinking more like a 3D show, like your 3D work. So basically from that point on, that's when I said the ceramics kind of chose me, but that piece made it with me. And that show, Black Creativity in Chicago, it went to a pop-up raw show in Brooklyn. I took it to Frisco. Then it sat in the box for over a year. And then Molly and Alan brought it. It was like one of the last pieces that went that weekend at Butter. That's the same piece I had the conversation with about Najee. It ended up in the Indianapolis Monthly. So it's like, I think, so for me, that piece is probably like one of my favorites as far as changing or even seeing my evolution or where I'm at now. If I pick that piece, but then I go down the rabbit hole and start fitting 20 other pieces. Why is that my favorite piece? So I'm gonna let FITZ talk.
I mean, I guess everybody has a favorite song for when whatever moment in time it is. It's kind of hard to. We got a bunch of albums. I like to call them I like to compare them to. I think my favorite piece I've done would have to be Built on Our Backs, the Monopoly reference or Monopoly flip. It was probably the first piece I was actually proud of myself, I would say, because I think it was the first time I actually did something where I wasn't rushing. I had a whole plan thought out. I had the colors. I had it all planned out. It conceptually was balanced. It made sense. It took me months to plan it. And then when I seen the results of like the people appreciating the work or having conversations, and I seen the open dialogue that it was beginning to create, I got a thirst for it, a hunger for creating that kind of dialogue some more. So yeah, Built on Her Backs probably was the first time I really said, yeah, I need to take some time with my pieces, and I need to stop rushing.
How do you deal with creative blocks? Is there a place you go in the city to replenish or rewire your brain to get ready for the next, how do you deal with that?
I realized that my creative blocks, first I realized where they're coming from. Most of the time, my creative blocks is just overwhelmed by I like to call my real life, not the art character life, I guess. But yeah, usually if Shane Young, as my government alias, if he's got a lot going on and I'm being a dad and I'm trying to be a partner and I'm trying to be a friend because my friends say, why you don't come out enough? You don't show up to my stuff. And then you kind of realize, like, sometimes you probably do need to get out a little bit more. And maybe you don't need to always be the main character of your life. Step out and go be in somebody else's story and support that main character. And I always try to make sure I show up when it counts. But when your friends tell you, hey, I need you to show up more, you either want friends or you don't. So I try to show up. I try to, just get out of my routine. So usually when my blocks is coming in, get out of my routine, go hang out with people, go do some normal stuff for a while. Don't stop hyper-focusing on what's next, on art. And yeah, that's how I usually get out of it.
Sometimes I don't know really how I get out of them. They just go away. But
Deadline probably.
sometimes the deadlines cause the blocks. Honestly, that's it. For real, I think it's back to like the meditation, or I do the same thing like going through like the projects. Like I might binge watch something, talk to my sons, go hang out, watch movies, just different things like that. But when I have the money and the time, I leave. Like I don't care where. If I just got to drive somewhere, if I can get on a plane, like that's one advantage of knowing people in other places. Like it don't always have to be somewhere fancy. Like sometimes I just like to leave the city. When I can't leave the city because of time or money, sometimes family might worry about me. I'll just be reclusive, and I just, like I said, I might be in the studio. Yesterday, I think to be turned from LA just hit me. I had left my phone in the van, and I was like, I'll go get it later. And I turned off all the lights in my studio and just laid down. And nobody knew where I was at for 5 hours. And I know people was worried about me, but it felt good when I got up. Because then I felt like my mind is clear. I'm not worried about, like Fitz said, I'm not worried about a deadline. I'm not worried about where I got to be. I'm just like, my mind's just clear. And then I can get back to it. Like, after I make a couple phone calls and let y'all know I'm alive. And then, then it just feel like you got a little freedom, like when just a little bit of stress is off of you. You know what I'm saying? Because I think anybody, like as a creative, it's like we constantly relying on our imagination, like the pure creatives in whatever form you in. It's your imagination. It's just you can't turn it off. So you just got to find that little moment to rest sometimes. And that little recharge be helping. So yeah, can't do it on the beach. Just turn off all your lights, leave your phone somewhere.
Is there a schedule as an artist? Like both of you guys are parents. How do you balance that? You told me a little bit about what you're doing, about your real life. How do you deal with like being a parent, being an artist? Like, what is that like? Do you go on vacations? Do you take a break? Like,
well, for me, fortunately, now my kids are like grown kids, so they can do them. And now I got time that I be like, they're always gonna be a kid. Now I figure out where my parents was coming from. They always your babies, but they grown now. You know what I mean? So they grown, so the conversations are different. Right now, nobody has kids, so I'm not a grandparent. So it's like I can just run. And sometimes people are like, you that old? And I'm like, old, it's a state of mind, like Pawpaw said. But but my family is kind of what keeps me going, so my nieces or nephews is out of town. I can talk to them, talk to my siblings, you know what I mean? So I'm still connected to family, even when not. But then the balance for me is like, everybody knows now, like, this is my life. I sleep and eat this. I'm just engulfed in it. So for me, I'm in the studio more than I was in the house anyway. So basically, I live in the studio. You know what I mean? That's my life now. This is how I look at it. That's what I do. It's who I am. It's like, so that balance is, like Fitz said, sometimes you gotta go to places. You know what I'm saying? I used to try to sleep like, Christmas, my kids ain't little, I'm asleep all day. And it's like, where are you at? Everybody, where are you at? So it's like, You know, so I guess it's important still to be like connected to your family or your community to keep your sanity for one. But yeah, just the balance is, there really is no balance. And the schedule for me is, I should technically have a schedule, but I don't. It's like, oh, this paperwork got to be in, or this need to be in for these classes, or this project got to be done. And then, like I said, I'm in the studio more than not, so it's kind of like giving yourself some time to work on some projects, but then you still got other projects going on at the same time. So for me, the anxiety be trying to balance getting everything done, like correctly in the right time frame. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be the catch.
Man, my daughter is 4. There is no such thing as balance in my life at the moment. There's no such thing as a schedule. After I've became a pops, I realized after about 2-3 years that I no longer control my life or day. It's just kind of like you never know. The school call, your daughter threw up. You go pick her up. She got a fever. Oh man, you got to take baby girl. She swim lessons. She want to do swim school. Your baby girl got to do ballet. All of these things cost money and time. And the only way I make money is with time. So it's really a difficult balance, especially when you're doing all that personal stuff, and then as your business and brand grows, as OG can say and understand, we get called to do things like this, which is fire, and I'm super appreciative. Yeah. It's just like you trying to balance that, and then I'm not even done with my butter painting. And then you like, what is after butter? I got my next drop coming, and it's like, okay, well then what else? Like that's just the business side, and then all in that, you still ain't nobody made no money yet. Like I ain't sold none yet. I ain't like, all of these is goals, all of these is dreams, and like in executing that, you have to stay confident. You have to stay, prayed up. You got to stay with God and believe like this makes sense, because you've done it before. You go through these steps, and then next thing you know, you can take care of all of these problems or issues or adversities.
I know Ashley's not here, but I saw an interview with her talking about how she doesn't think she's made her best piece yet. Do you guys feel the same way?
Me and my homie Theo talk about this all the time. It's really difficult if you was to go tomorrow. I mean, God forbid. But a bunch of people would have their favorite piece of yours. So I think as you continue to grow in your craft, you're gonna always would hope to make something that you would deem your favorite piece. But I think artists are their hardest critics. So you might make Mona Lisa and hate it. Honest to God, truth. It's really the people that determine your favorite piece. At least that's in my eyes. That's how it usually works.
So it goes back to the kids thing, right? I got a lot of pieces that I love, but I can't keep all those pieces. Like I had to sell these pieces or let these pieces go. Like that's, and it's great when they go. But there is a time that I wish like I could bring all these pieces into one space one day, right? Not 2 days, but one day. I know that I haven't made my best work yet because I don't know my full potential yet. I know I'm always working on this body of work or this ideal that I still haven't mastered yet. You know what I mean? So it's like, but then once again, I said I'm my own competition. Like I gotta beat what I did last, and if I ain't competing against that dude, then I feel like I'm a failure. So I don't know what the best work even looks like yet. You know what I mean? Because I know I'm not the best version of me yet. So it's like I'm still learning along the way, and hopefully I'll have time to keep being like that. When I realized that Pablo Picasso didn't even make it till he was in his 80s, at times I feel like, well, shit, maybe I'm a farther than Picasso is right now. But do I gotta die to get paid? You know what I mean? So
unfortunately,
I don't know. Yeah, but I think as artists or as creatives in general, it's like I said, we always working on the next best thing, because somebody's always asking, can you make something like that? And I'm like, nah, it was only one of that but I can make something similar or better. And like through your process, you're gonna get better. Like the more you do it, you're gonna get better at it. So, you know, I think like all of us that I've witnessed, like the artists in the city or even Butter, we ain't made our best piece unless we stop making pieces. You know, like, yeah, we got some prolific work, bro, but he ain't made his best piece yet. He got a 4-year-old, and I see baby girl. She's bossy. She ain't gave him that time yet. But so kind of going to that, like as a parent though, as time goes on, I think like that makes us better too. Like my sons being like man, I miss my daddy and Butter every year, and they call, hey daddy, when's Butter? You know, we know what we coming, and they friends is coming, and you know people, man, I saw your daddy, and you know, so it's kind of like. That's a proud moment, especially for me, like who they could have been saying, man, I know seen your daddy on TV and it wouldn't be for the good stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I had to change because of them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And now I think like through my artists, like they gave me a lot of opportunities or times and aspirations that I didn't even see coming. So yeah, I know it's a lot of work to be done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
As you do more amazing stuff in the city, you're in Butter, you're in other things happening around the city. Is there something still on your bucket list or vision board that you've yet to achieve yet, that you're looking forward to?
Man,
well, I don't know where to begin with that.
We could be here for a month talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off what he said, I think my bucket list is with art. You never know what it's gonna bring you, or in general, when you set out to do something, you set your quest out, you want to pick your career of choice. But next thing you know, I thought I was gonna be drawn on TV, like part of a TV show, cartoon animation. I'm painting. I'm thinking about I'm dropping brand work. I'm doing merch. I'm like I'm in a Newfields museum, with my friends. I didn't expect none of that when I wanted to do art. Like I said, I had the surface level thinking of, I just wanted to do that, and I ain't even did that. So I always thought I was failing until I had to reposition my mind to, like, this is what I'm required to do. Like he said, this is what chose me. So, yeah, I forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know how that is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the stuff we want to do.
Yeah, there's something on your list that you're like.
Oh, my bucket list. My bucket list, though. I would like to have a solo show for my city, in my city, or in this city. I don't own this. I don't own this place. My apologies.
It's your city.
Yeah. But yeah, I would love to do a solo show in Indianapolis. I really want to do a pop-up, like an official installation pop-up in Art Basel. That would be super dope. Something happened to the water pipes. But nah, I would like to work on a TV show. I'd love to have either character design for a TV show, or just intern on one, or just see how it all it works. Yeah, and I really want to work with I want my the people I look up to be my peers. So that's my bucket list of like trying to keep it short and sweet. So
yeah. So normally I got my bucket hat, but it's in my bag. But yeah, I love to eventually have a brand deal or something like a Kango or Adidas, Nike or somebody. Like I see other artists do it. Like I like to do that too. The few times that people that came in the city, I didn't get those opportunities. So sometimes you can be like, well, you get mad and be worried about different things, and like everything's not for you, right? So now I start looking, like I said, beyond the city. So like Fitz said, so like I've been doing my research. I got accepted in the New York Art Expo earlier this year. I couldn't afford to do it. Remember I was telling you about the prices. So like shows like that, like the Basel, like Red Dot Spectrum, Untitled or Scope. Yeah, I love to be in one of them. Solo shows now, I'm like, I done a lot of the venues here in the city. Like as far as solos, like maybe not a couple of people's little main galleries or nothing. But instead of begging to be in them, now I'd love to be in a solo show now on the West Coast or the East Coast or down south in a major spot, you know what I'm saying? Or travel a bar, go international. Like, hey, let me get some residencies under my belt now. Like, it's a lot of things like with art that you don't know about when you're thinking it's a glass ceiling, or like we're really not an arts city culturally. You know what I'm saying? Like it's expanding, it's changing. We in the middle of the change, but it's like my dreams are bigger than the box I'm in now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do I go? And then like the more people we meet in other places, it's like, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? I'm like, no, I love to do that. So like TV, film, a movie, you know, have pieces positioned somewhere, or be in the right collection. You know what I mean? Some more museums under my belt. It's like I said, we can go on for months, days, weeks, and years now, because it's like the more knowledge that I gain, then the more that I be like, hey, I want to shoot for that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I just don't want to be confined to like this is the only goal or dream. Like now I know it's like even with my goals, it takes systems or connections or talking to the right people or even sharing your ideas just to get farther. So now I guess like my biggest thing on my bucket list is not to be limited by limitations.
My last question is, if there's one thing you could tell like younger, I say younger, not necessarily in age, but aspiring artists in general, what is one thing that you wish that you knew that you want to tell other people as they're trying to pursue this?
That the first thing you gotta do is start. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta start. You believe in yourself and you put in that work, and you're gonna get better at it the more you do it. Like, so consistency is the key. Yeah, you just gotta keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? If you feel like it's for you and you know it's what you want to do, you gotta do it. But you gotta research your craft or get out and see it. So if you young, mama, take me to this art show, or take me to see such and such, because now we know about these things. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's like positions and priorities. Like, you know, like we all want nice things, and I know I buy stuff like stupid stuff I don't need, but I'll spend my money on art supplies before I go eat somewhere some days.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I know this is what I want, and this is what's gonna get me where I need to go. So I gotta have it. You know what I mean? So I can't be like, I want to do an art show and I don't have no art. So I gotta make it. Like Fitz said, it's a lot of times you just gotta, hey, do I not make this, or do I make this in the hopes? Excuse me. And like I said, in making it, you're gonna get better. In making it, you'll see, okay, especially if you sell it, then you know, I gotta go make some more, and they gotta be just as good or better. So, you know, consistency is the key, just showing up. Yeah.
I guess I could tell younger artists, outside of discipline, I would learn financial literacy. I would get on my health. I would honestly, I got a long list of things before we even start talking about art, just so you can do it for a long time. But yeah, financial literacy would be like probably my biggest advice for a young kid artist. Because if you can learn how to manage $12 for the week, you can learn how to manage $1,200 and $1,500, and you realize that when you get whatever you got for, say, your painting was sold for $1,000, you didn't make $1,000. You made minus. Actually, you have to do the homework. You have minus the time that you put into it, minus the materials, minus all that shipping. You have to do the homework to actually understand what you are making and how you can build upon that. Because you are, once you cross over, because this content creating stuff has got kind of, you know, business blemished. So maybe everybody think just I can post and be like a working brand and working efficient brand, but nah, yeah, you have to learn money, and you have to learn what you're making, and yeah, please file your taxes.
Okay. Excellent way to end it off.
Yeah.
Again, I appreciate you guys so much for talking with me today. I know y'all got other stuff to do, but you're here. So
Appreciate
that's
being
definitely.
here.
No, I
Thank
appreciate you for having us.